Coming at you right now as a Monday morning quarterback. For the first time since August 20th, I dropped a UFC card. That's right, win, lose, or draw. I'm here to talk about it. And I did drop the Cater vs. Allen UFC card, which came after a absolutely astonishing Bellator card. So, a couple things we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the Bellator results from Saturday. We're going to talk about the UFC results from Saturday. We're going to talk about some very questionable judging decisions. And we're going to talk about a little bit what's ahead for the MMA Shark, not only in November, but the MMA Shark podcast, which are about to go to the next level. So, with that said, let's dig into it. I'm still crushing this year, for the record. Had a losing UFC card, did not have a losing month. The month of October went for plus 31 units. So, to my standards, that's probably about 70% of where I'd like to be every month. But, you know, even if you bet $10 a fight in October, you won $310. So, it's a strong ROI. I personally like to be above 45 units for the month. And I was well over that into Saturday. Took some shots on some big UFC fights that I really liked. And we'll discuss a little bit what happened throughout that. So, very big day of MMA it was on Saturday. Some really good fights, but absolutely some questionable decisions. And even one that we won that we clearly didn't win. So, you know, I felt like judges haven't been a huge issue the last couple weeks, last month, but apparently it was. So, anyways, so let's talk about the Bellator card first, because the Bellator card was absolute fire. I went 10-1 on the card. Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great card. So for Bellator, we kicked it off with under 1.5 rounds in the Luke Trainer versus Lucas Almeida fight. Easy win. Luke Trainer just destroyed him a minute and a half into the first round. Cashed that. Next fight, we had Nicola Soli, home, fighting in Italy at home at a pick'em. Big win there. Female fight, had Chiara Penko to win this fight. Minus 210, a little more than I like to risk for 1 unit. She got crushed. She lost all 3 rounds of this fight. They go to the scorecards, and they announce a split decision in favor of Penko. Have no idea how we won that fight. Either way, it was only a 1 unit risk. You know, we won less than a half unit on it, but it was a weird one. It was a split decision robbery that we should have lost, but we did win the fight. Next fight, hit the dog in Alfie Davis. Big spot for him. He's been an emerging fighter. I have no clue why he was plus money, so we did take care of that. My biggest fight on the Bellator prelims was the over 1.5 rounds at minus 165 between Costello Vansnesis and Kamil Onjacek, and it did go over 1.5 rounds by about 20 seconds. So everything was just cruising. Had a 3-leg parlay on the Bellator between Trainer, Hill, and Mansour in the main event. It was plus 115 for 3 units. We smashed that one. And then I added a prelim. You know, on Thursday when I texted, or Friday, I'm sorry, when I sent out the prelims, I was kind of torn on the Gallon-Scatizzi fight. But Scatizzi at plus 200, I had to throw a unit at that. He dominated the fight. He won the fight. Bellator main card. Had a parlay between Justin Gonzalez, who looked super good in that fight, got the win, and Fabian Edwards. You know, Leon's little brother. You know, he's been fighting good. I know he had a tough fight matched up with Charlie Ward, but he did get the win there. So that was another parlay that cashed. Also had Justin Gonzalez to win by decision, minus 110. That cashed. The lone loss on Bellator was Sal Rogers. I had Sal Rogers in a parlay with Fabian Edwards and Mansour. That went down. You know, I didn't even watch the fight because UFC was going on at the time. But Sal Rogers was minus 6,000 at one point during this fight. So let me know if you watched that fight and if that decision was right or not, or what he did that he can go from a minus 6,000 live favorite to losing the fight. Again, co-main event had Fabian Edwards to get the win. He got the win. Main event, I had Mansour Barano to win by finish at plus 190. That cashed. He was the last leg of our parlay. great, fine and dandy. Bellator goes 10-1, some very big wins on that. Really set the pace for the day. Then we turn over to UFC, and this UFC card is something that I call a shit sandwich. There was so many bad beats on this card. There was boring fights. There was terrible decisions by the judges. One in particular we're going to dig into, and let me know what you think. I'm sure that there's a lot of MMA fans watching this. You know, whether you're watching this on Spotify, YouTube Music, podcasts, wherever you're watching this, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, let me know what you think on this fight between Jacoby and if he won or lost to Roundtree. I think it's clear as day, but we started the UFC card with a win. Christian Rodriguez, very easy pick. Unfortunately, I parlayed Christian Rodriguez with Chase Hooper. I really felt like Chase Hooper, and I shouldn't even say I really felt, I believe Chase Hooper could win the fight, but I thought there was that outside chance that he wouldn't. He's been somewhat unpredictable. He looked terrible in a couple fights. You know, his last fight he looked good, got the ground and pound finish. Chase Hooper did not show up. Steve Garcia dropped him 4 times in the fight. And a lot of people are saying Herb stopped that fight early. I disagree. You know, when you're dropped that many times and covered up, you know, he was completely covered up. And I wanted to cover up by the end of this card. So we lost a 3-unit parlay on Rodriguez and Hooper. Definitely didn't set the tone for the night. But a very big win came in the next fight, and that was Cody Durden. Cody Durden taking on Moda, LFA's flyweight champion, on 5 days' notice since Clayton Rodriguez pulled out. I liked Cody Durden in the spot at plus 140. The only worry was would Moda clip him with something strong and drop him early, and the drop did come early, but it was Durden connecting a huge right hand that put Moda on the ground. Durden had an answer for every submission that Moda threw up. It was really a nice, clean win, and the best part of it from a gambling perspective is we had the Cody Durden to win by decision prop at plus 400. So basically evened us up for the Chase Hooper parlay and got us a little bit ahead on the UFC card going into that. After that, it was just a rough card. I had a 1.5 unit risk on Joseph Holmes to get the win. I did not see him getting out-wrestled the way he did. I thought he would have been a better grappler. I didn't think he would have gassed the way he did. Fight 5, I did have Marcos Rogerio de Lima to win that fight by finish. I did put out the TKO prop. It came by submission, so it's one of those, if you took him inside distance, you cashed. If you just had the TKO at plus 150, you drop that one. So we go on to the main card of UFC, and fight 1 on the main card was my max play for the day. It was Dustin Jacoby, minus 170 for a 7-unit total risk. It's a play that I completely loved. It's a play I took with the utmost confidence. The only path to victory in this fight, to me, seemed that Khalil Roundtree would need to knock him out. It was never even close. Dustin Jacoby outlanded him double the strikes, 166 to 79, and somehow lost a split decision on this fight. And I am still puzzled. I'm looking at the judges' scorecards now. Ben Cartledge scored this fight for Khalil Roundtree. Ben Cartledge gave Jacoby the first round, somehow gave Roundtree the second round. I have no clue how a judge can give Khalil Roundtree the second round. Jacoby landed at 77% in the second round, just completely teed off, had answers everywhere in the second round. In fact, Jacoby's best round was the second round. He was minus 1,400 live going to the third round. Judge Chris Flores scored the first round for Khalil Roundtree, the second round for Dustin Jacoby, and the third round for Roundtree. Roundtree won the third round. I will sit here and say he absolutely won the third round. But it drives me crazy that Ben Cartledge thought Jacoby won the first round, and Flores is saying Jacoby didn't win the first round. Chris Flores gave Jacoby the second round, as he should have. But Ben Cartlidge gave Roundtree the second round. In what planet did Khalil Roundtree win that second round? The only judge that got this fight right is a judge that I do like a lot. And I saw he was assigned to this fight. And, I knew that there'd be nothing crazy with Ron McCarthy in this fight. Ron McCarthy scored this fight exactly how it should have been. Exactly how it should have been. He had Jacoby winning round 1, which he won, Jacoby winning round 2, which he won, and Roundtree winning round 3, which he won. Final score on Ron McCarthy's card, Dustin Jacoby, 29-28. The fact that Ben Cartlidge and Chris Flores gave the fight to Roundtree based on opposite rounds is absolutely pitiful. This decision was actually this much better, this much worse than the Yan versus O'Malley fight the week before. At least O'Malley did some damage to Yan in that fight. I look at the media scorecards on this fight just to make sure I'm not nuts. Drake Riggs and Jay Petrie, one from MMAmania.com and one from ShareDog.com, gave the fight to Roundtree. 14 other media sources gave that fight to Jacoby. A little bit more verified media sources gave that fight to Jacoby. MMA Junkie, 2 from ShareDog, Tapped Out, Bloody Elbow, Coachside Judges, ShareDog, Wrestling Advisor, Combat Press, MMA.com. So, the legitimate media sources and the one legitimate judge that was in that fight saw it how it went, and that was for Dustin Jacoby. So, from my standpoints, on a max play, the highest I'll go is 7 units. When you win a 7-unit parlay or a 7-unit max play, and the judges just steal it from you, there's only one thing worse than that, and that would be losing a fight by an injury. So, very, very painful that was. Never should have happened. Jacoby won that fight. Nothing's going to change my mind. MMA judging the past 2 weeks have been awful. So, it's always bad vibes when you're going into a fight after getting totally robbed like we did in the Jacoby fight. But I split it up in the next fight. Josh Freemed, I had minus 150. He lost the fight to Tresean Gore, who looked phenomenal. Team Lima, he's 3-2. He's in the UFC coming off 2 losses. Tresean Gore was definitely fighting for his job in that fight, but I also had under 2.5 rounds in that fight, so we split it up. Not the end of the world there. Next fight on the main card. So by this point of the night, that judge's decision still had me shook up. We had the same judges for the Tim Means and Max Griffin fight. I had a 2-unit lean on Tim Means all week. I did go up to 4 units on Tim Means, thinking maybe, just maybe. Tim Means is a tough out. He clearly lost the first round. Second and third round were up in the air. I did have the fight 30-27 for Max Griffin. And, they're announcing the decisions, and they say Judge 1 scores this contest. And I'm going, oh, my God, we're going to get the robbery back. The robbery's coming back. And when I saw that was the split decision, I thought for sure they were going to give it to Tim Means. They did not give it to Tim Means, so we did drop 4 units on that fight. That was just a bad call. There's a difference between losing by an injury or a robbery and just calling the fight wrong. I called the Tim Means fight wrong. Max Griffin was definitely the better fighter in that fight. He was faster with more power. Main event, Kattar versus Arnold Allen. I love this play. I put it out on Monday. I put out a 4-unit play on Calvin Kattar. His path to victory in this fight was simply getting rounds banked in. First round was very close. I did score the round for Arnold Allen. Probably before the injury happened, I'm going to safely secure that round for Arnold Allen. Calvin Kattar literally blew his knee out just backing up at the end of the first round, and we lose that fight by injury. It's one of those things with MMA too. Injuries are going to happen. You got to be prepared for that. The only way that we can be prepared for that is although units were up this year and previous years, people that have been with me since day one, they can absorb losing 10 units, 12 units, 15 units, 20 units on a UFC card. It's very rare that it happens, but the majority of my large plays are on house money. So, and a 4-unit play isn't like necessarily, oh my God, biggest play in the world. But if I played Bellator that way, it could have went for 60 units. Hitting a card at 10-1 and hitting 3 parlays along the way. So it's just crazy. There's been 4 UFC main events in 2022 that have ended via injury, and I'm actually 0 for 4 on them. And I believe all 4 of my fighters would have won the fight. We had Alexander Ratchich blow his knee out earlier this year. We had Tom Aspinall blow his MCL versus Curtis Blades 20 seconds into the main event at UFC London. Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez. Ortega was going to win that fight. He blew out his shoulder going for a takedown. So, Calvin Kattar, this knee injury. Bad beats are going to happen. Robberies by judges certainly shouldn't happen, but they're going to happen. The O'Malley robbery was crazy. The Jacoby robbery was even crazier. I can't agree at all that there's any scenario in the world where Dustin Jacoby lost that fight. But all that matters at the end of the day is the podium winner and the person who gets their hand right. My job as an MMA handicapper is to get that right. So overall for the month, I'm happy. Going for 30 plus 31 units in a month is definitely a good feat. I only lost 1 UFC card since August 20th, and that was this card. So we're still coming into this hot. We're still coming into November hot with a very positive mindset. And there is a ton of MMA in November and December to close out the year. www.themmashark.com. Sign up. I have a promo code embedded into the website where you can save 25% off your first month and see what all the hype is about. You're not going to lose. Overall, the system is bulletproof. We may lose a day, we may lose a fight, we may lose a week. Overall, chances of losing a month are greater than 10%, 10 to 12% for a losing month. Just looking ahead at some of the events in November, we've got a really good UFC this Saturday at the Apex. Next weekend, we go to Madison Square Garden, the huge Adesanya versus Pereira card. We have a big Bellator on November 18th, Nemkov versus Anderson. Also on the next night, November 19th, we have Spivak versus Lewis. Big month of MMA. I think there's 8 cards in total in the month of November that I will be handicapping. So, coming off 1 UFC losing card is really not the end of the world when the numbers are where they're at. I look at a lot of other handicappers and where they're at year to date. The losing ones don't put out units because it would be detrimental to their business. The winning ones, they could be up anywhere from 20 to 210 units for the year. I'm up documented well over 400 units this year. We're just going to keep it climbing. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my podcast. Have some big UFC fighters on it this week. Tomorrow night, going to have UFC flyweight, big standout, coming off a huge win. My boy Cody Durden on the show. Later on this week, fighting next in 2 weeks for the UFC, will be flyweight Charles Energy Johnson, who, really fought great versus Muhammad Mokaev. Was able to get up 11 times. Cody Durden coming off 2 huge wins in a row, one over JP Buys, one over Carl Mota. So make sure you subscribe to this channel. We're going to have a lot of big MMA fighters on here. Again, driven by www.themmashark.com. Sign up. You don't have to log in to get the plays. I text them to you personally, and I keep updated throughout the card. Sometimes plays are sent within 20 minutes of the fight. Sometimes plays are sent 3 hours before the fight or a week before the fight in the cater situation. So check us out at www.themmashark.com, and we'll keep cashing tickets. Have a good day, everyone.